So,
yeah, I can imagine.
So,
by the way,
I don't know.
Pardon?
No, I'm saying that one thing about, all these new platforms, technologies, they are, of course, enabling us to do more things, democratizing the space. But at the same time, as you just said,
Yeah.
all the time we have to adjust to new ways of new rules. These are like operational rules that they keep coming up with, no? Isn't it? Yeah.
By the way, we are live now, Venu. So, and
Okay.
everyone out there, hello there. We are live on all platforms, and we're
Okay.
talking about independent and digital-only news organizations. They've sought legal redressal now under the new rules notified by the central government on regulating them. The Delhi High Court has admitted a plea by a founding member or founding editor of The Wire, M K Venu, who's with us right now. Also in the plea is co-founder of the News Minute, Dhanya Rajendran. And the Delhi High Court has sought the centre's reply in 4 weeks' time. Venu, thanks so much for joining us on Media Buddhi now. And, really the idea now is to understand what the argument is against this kind of oversight. So my first question really is, we'll get into details, but what is your position as to why independent and digital media should not be regulated in the manner that the government is proposing?
Well, it's fundamentally we believe, and that's what the Constitution says, that the executive, the government, cannot sit in judgment over what is news and what is not news, or as they have put it in the rules, that they want to monitor what are half truths or what are innuendos. These are very broad categories, and what is in bad taste. So it is very clear that the way free speech jurisprudence has evolved in our country over the decades since independence, it is very clear that that news as a category is to be self-regulated. The executive does not have any discretion to decide what is news or what is not news, or what is the news that can create problems from the standpoint of whatever the executive is anxious about. So these are all established. It's established law, and Article 19 of the Constitution, 19(1)(a) lays down these with reasonable restrictions, and the executive deciding what is news or not does not fall within reasonable restrictions. The reasonable restrictions have their definition, and those are also determined by a legal framework, by a framework of law, which we all know. Defamation law. If I put out some news which is defamatory, people can take you to court, and people have been taking us to court, right? Digital news media, and even newspaper. So our problem is the new rules, IT rules, Information Technology Act. Under that, the rules that they've brought out, new rules, they conflate news with OTT and entertainment and social platforms, etc. Right? So
yes.
that is our main contention. Even in the court case, High Court case, we have so far, Venkatesh, we have not gone into the larger issue of freedom of speech, Article 19, constitutionality of this of the new rule. So far we have limited ourselves. If you see our arguments, Nithya Ramakrishnan's argument, she has very clearly, she told the Chief Justice, the High Court, that the IT Act 2000 does not even remotely contemplate regulation of news. It is platform accountability. There is no mention of news or publisher in the Act. So therefore, she cited various sections of the Information Technology Act, and it was good to see the judge interested, and he went through all those, and he said that he wants to go into much more detail, and he ended by saying, he told our advocate that these are good arguments. He used the word, these are good arguments. We will examine it in greater detail, and he has given a date. And more importantly, Venktesh, before it ended, our lawyer asked the judge, the Chief Justice, what happens if between now and the next hearing, if some coercive action is resorted to by the government in terms of powers that they've accumulated, right? The emergency power to take down news content even without consulting the publisher or even informing the publisher. So he said, if in that case, if that happens, then you can always come to us. So that's a kind of verbal assurance we have.
Okay. I mean, this is interesting to note. So, I mean, correct me if I'm rephrasing what you're saying wrongly, but you're saying, yes, there are many constitutional arguments. We're not even getting there. We're only looking at a few constitutional arguments, but we're generally looking at what the law itself says, the IT Act says, and that under the IT Act,
we are limiting ourselves to the IT Act.
Okay.
We have now, so far we have limited ourselves to the application of the IT Act 2000. We are saying that this act does not even mention the word news or the word publisher or regulating news. So therefore, it is ultra vires this act to bring digital news into this framework. That's a basic argument.
Okay. Are there any precedents, Venu, or case law out there that you're kind of relying on? Because I've realized that in journalism, especially when it comes to crackdown on the media, the case law can be very, very useful. For example, a journalist is prosecuted under the Official Secrets Act a couple of decades earlier, and then now later on, journalists will rely on case law. So is there any such precedent that you're looking at?
So our lawyer, Nithya Ramakrishnan, has today she pointed to the judge, to the Chief Justice and the bench, a previous Supreme Court judgment which examined the powers under the IT Act 2000, and that judgment also, according to our lawyer, does not really extend those powers to news in the way that these rules are trying to control news, or to sort of accumulate discretionary power to decide, what kind of news is kosher and what kind of news is not kosher.
Okay. Just for anyone who
and also these will be this will be sort of these arguments will be done in greater detail in the next hearing.
Okay. Are you saying, though, for anyone who's just logging in and is coming to this issue from a fresh perspective, are you saying that independent and digital media ought to be not regulated at all anywhere in your argument? Or are you saying, no, this is not the kind of, yes, it ought to be regulated, but this is not the kind of regulation we should be under?
By the way, in fact, this point also was very clearly brought out by our lawyer to the bench today. Nithya said that it was not her case at all that news media should not be regulated, and she said news media is regulated. Should be there is already a self-regulation mechanism via an act, the Press Council Act, for instance, right? And there are codes of conduct, and there are various other laws like laws of defamation which apply to news media. And it is not as if news media today is operating some law of the jungle. This is the point of emphasis. She said that only a statute, an act of parliament, can lay down a kind of self-regulatory system for news media. And in this case, of course, Parliament has not been consulted. We all know. I would say even news publishers, digital publishers also are consulted. In fact, if you go by the statements made by the Minister for INB and Minister for IT, the Minister for Information Broadcasting has said that they've been consulting the OTT players. They have been having some ongoing dialogue for the last 1 year. but not news, digital news, entities at all. Yeah.
Yes, and just for those who need the perspective, these new rules by the government notified a couple of weeks ago seek to bring together social media intermediaries, or like Facebook and maybe Twitter and so on, and then OTT platforms such as Netflix and Amazon Prime, and independent digital media organizations or news organizations. So it's like one set of rules for three extremely different types of operations.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. But Venu, not only are you fighting. Okay. Yeah. So sorry, you were saying.
No, that you're right. That is a problem. They are putting all these in one basket. Whereas if you go by other laws, Australian law, UK law, German law, the other mature democracies, news, that is newspaper and digital news, they are put in one basket, right? And they have one set of self-regulation, and the others have a different set of self-regulation. So here they're creating a false category. The newspaper is exempt, but the digital version of, say, Times of India or digital version of Hindu as a newspaper is exempt, or Times of India is exempt, but its digital version, which carries 90% the same stories, is not exempt. So this is where in my view, this big contradiction there. And
yes,
that has to follow.
It's also worth pointing out that in India, print media is regulated indirectly and directly differently from TV media, which is differently regulated from digital-only media, which until recently, of course, was not regulated at all. But over the last few months, there are laws or guidelines being enacted to change that. Last couple of questions, Venu. Not only as someone who's representing digital media, but someone who represents the wire. Not only are you fighting a legal battle on this front, but also a perception battle. So what would you say to people who say, how can you not be regulated? You folks. I mean, everybody has to be regulated. What would you say to that?
So I would.
It looks like, Venu, it looks like we can't hear you. There is
that news are regulating us today. No, what I'm saying is that I'm saying even we are regulated even by various laws, like the law of definition. There are now some argue that digital news media, they have not evolved a code of conduct. Now we can be. I mean, we can be brought under the same Press Council Act, right? There are people who have gone to Press Council and brought complaints against even digital news media. So my simple point is that treat news as one category, both newspaper and digital news, and then you treat entertainment as another category, and social platforms are a whole different ball game that we all know, right? Facebook, Twitter, and all, they are basically platforms. They don't create content largely. So they have a different set of issues, right? So this categorization is very important. And the present rules, they create a lot of confusion. And they also seek to sort of, because media is so fragmented in terms of, platforms, in terms of the way they operate, they're also, it seems to me that they're trying to take advantage of this confusion. So that there is no unified voice.
Yes. One final question, slightly more personal in nature. Venu, as someone who's of the wire, and this is not the first legal, not the first time you're going to court, you've had to answer several summons over the last few years. Would you say that a fringe benefit of all this is that you're getting to know the law very well?
Yeah, basically the law of defamation, we've understood almost close to doing a kind of MPhil, on the law of defamation, PhD. civil defamation, criminal defamation. We've had multiple cases, 6, 7 cases from the political class, from big corporate houses. Some of them have been withdrawn. The others are still hanging fire without. Some are not being taken seriously. So, one group which I wouldn't want to name has filed 2 suits against us, totaling about 11,000 crores civil damages. So I keep telling people this is I would regard this possibly as our valuation, the damages that have been sought from us.
Yeah. Gallows humor there, Venu. Thanks so much for taking the time to clear this whole process for us. The process itself is a punishment, they say, especially in these cases, of course. So thank you so much.
I would end by saying, Venkatesh, again, gallows humor. This government has so many tools to control the media, including sedition charges. Why do they need these rules? They might as well just put sedition charges as they've done against 5, 6 editors in recent times. They have criminal defamation, they have sedition, they have a host of other tools in their hands. So this is what I would tell people who say that is media being regulated? Well, sedition charges.
Yeah. Regulation through so many laws and acts. Yes, absolutely. Indeed.
And criminalizing. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. And we wish you all the best, Venu. And in not just the current case where we will get an answer maybe in 4 weeks' time, but also all the other cases that you're fighting.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.